Hello and welcome to We Random, episode 20. Happy New Year, happy 2021. You know, I hope that all your dreams and wishes for 2021 come true. Unless you're a Bears fan and you're hoping for a win this weekend, then I hope it breaks your goddamn heart. But I still love you. More after this.
Almost Qualified Productions. Your dose of semi-coherent babbling.
Welcome to We Random, episode 20. I'm Brian, that's Christopher. Say hello to the people, Christopher.
Hey, people.
How's 2021 treating you so far, everybody? Hopefully everyone is doing well. Hopefully everybody's safe. Hopefully everybody's having a good new year, except like you said, maybe not Mitch Trubisky, but everybody else, you know, y'all can have a good new year. Like you all, we've got a nice full belt after the holidays of topics for you this week. So we're going to try to dive right in. We've got a lot of content for you. We're going to have to loosen up that belt and, you know, tighten up these pants and get going. What are your thoughts on that, Christopher?
Let's do it.
All right. So you guys know how this works. Our Wheel of Doom, we're going to spin it. We're going to see what comes up. We're going to try to get through as much as we can. And then because, you know, we like to talk about food, we might just have a very special random rankings where we talk about some pie. What do you know about that pie, Christopher?
I don't know. We're going to find out soon, though. I tell you that. Maybe.
All right.
But I'm spinning the wheel.
Let's spin it and see what we get.
It looks like NFL MVP.
All right. So we are heading into the last week of the NFL regular season, and players are dropping like flies. You know, Alvin Kamara dropped 6 touchdowns, and then he dropped a positive COVID test. We've got all kind of things going on in the NFL, but one of the big questions is, who is the NFL MVP? So there was an article by Bleacher Report that says it should be Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers isn't the obvious leader in the clubhouse to claim the hardware, but no one else should receive a vote, they said. The Green Bay quarterback's claim became obvious in Week 16 after an uncertain campaign in which multiple options seemed like potential favorites. They've all faded over time, but Mr. Rodgers has been connecting with his boy Devontae Adams, Robert Tonyan, and all those other brothers, and has been making it happen. So I don't know, Christopher, what do you think? You got Aaron Rodgers, you got Patrick Mahomes, you've got, you know, all of the usual suspects. I'm sure somebody out there is throwing their vote to Tom Brady, but what are your thoughts on this one?
Tom fucking Brady. Like, not even Wiggum is that bad. I don't think. Maybe he is.
I mean, he's throwing his vote to Cam Newton, isn't he? Now, because does he stick with the brand and just stick with the Patriots, or does he follow Tom? That's a good question.
That's a good question. Well, Wiggum's out there in the chat, so it'll be interesting to see what he says. You know, I'm trying to look up I'm failing at looking up the stats right now as we're talking, because I wanted to have that in front of me and I just wasn't quite ready. But I think one thing that's worth looking at, and this is something that they mentioned in the article there, is Rodgers is really pushing all the way towards the end of the season, whereas Mahomes hasn't been really strong the last few weeks. Now, the argument could be Mahomes hasn't had to be super strong, right? They've got the home field wrapped up. They don't have anything to play for, whereas the Packers do. In fact, we still have something to play for this week. So you would expect that Rodgers is going to come out and could potentially have a great game, right? He has something to really push him to play besides possibly winning the MVP. So I think that's one thing to consider. I believe if you look statistically, they kind of go back and forth a little bit, right? I think Mahomes has more yards. I think Rodgers has more touchdowns, less interceptions. I think his rating may be a little bit better. So I think it kind of goes back and forth a little bit as far as who has the better statistics. But they're very, very close. I think that when you look at the fact that Mahomes has all those receivers that he has, and Rodgers has Devontae Adams and a bunch of crap. I mean, the fact, let's be honest. Let's look at the tight end alone, right? Pat Mahomes is playing with the best tight end in the league, and Aaron Rodgers has practically made an all-star or a Pro Bowler out of Robert Tonyan, for God's sake. Like, that speaks volumes.
Well, to be fair, Evan Ingram, I think it is, made the Pro Bowl over Tunyon, which is a joke. But like the whole thing with this is in the beginning of the year, if you looked at the odds at before week 1, Rodgers was behind these stellar names of Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, and then here's where it gets yucky: Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, and Wiggum's favorite, Cam Newton. So basically, the odds makers were burying Rodgers. Like, he was down in the category of Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, this is ridiculous. So right now, the odds are Rodgers is in the forefront. It's Mahomes, and then maybe Josh Allen. Like, those are pretty much the only three people that people are thinking of right now that might be in the contention for the MVP. And I think Rodgers really should get it, especially if you look at not only his productivity, but how he has lifted up the team and how he has supported a defense that time and time again has failed to support him. So, and you can probably say the same about Mahomes, right? Like, the Chiefs don't have a stellar defense. And Allen basically does everything for the Bills because they look at their running backs and go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. I'm going to hand it to one of you 6 times and then the other one 20, and then I'm going to flip that in the next game. So, like, all three of these quarterbacks are basically the only thing going on their team, but Rodgers has definitely stood out among all of them.
Yeah, I agree. So Wiggum wants to know, why do I love Cam Newton? When did this become a thing? Well, it's because you're all sold on the Patriots, who are garbage, for the record. And then you asked if you said, I believe Aaron Rodgers is leading in everything statistics wise besides yards. Well, let me take a look, because I have them both pulled up here. As long as you cooperate with me, you stupid thing. Okay, so completion percentage, Rodgers 70.3 to 66.3. Yardage, Mahomes 4740 to 4059. So he's got 700 more yards. Yards per attempt, though, is exactly even at 8.1. So without looking at their actual attempts, I'd have to look down here. Obviously, Mahomes is throwing the ball a hell of a lot more than what Rodgers is. Touchdowns, 44 for Rodgers to 38 for Mahomes, which is a big difference, of course. And then interceptions, 5 for Rodgers, 6 for Mahomes. That's what shows up at the top of the Football Reference. Those are the easy ones for me to get at. So I would argue that the numbers are better for Rodgers than they are for Mahomes.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think one of the things that we have to figure out is how, and this isn't going to necessarily impact the MVP race, but now that the Packers have lost David Bakhtiari, how does that impact the offense and Rodgers' comfort in the pocket and all of these things? Because he's able to make, all of our friends, Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, anybody look like a superstar if he has enough time. But when he doesn't have enough time, that's where
Things get
having
crazy.
yeah, that's where having these guys that are like okay NFL players, but again, you get okay NFL player performance when they're put under subpar conditions.
Yeah, that's a huge blow, and I think that first of all, that's going to impact MVP race to a degree, right? Because Rodgers needs to go out there and put up a big showing this week. But the bigger picture of that, of course, is throughout the playoffs. How is that going to impact what Rodgers and the Packers do? So that's a big question mark. We do have some conversation in the chat. Historical Gamer says 5,000 yards passing would be similar to throwing 48 plus touchdown passes. If Mahomes got there, that'd be a big thing for him. Yeah, I suppose. I think when you look at the percentage, like yards per attempt, that type of thing, the fact that they're like dead on, I think that takes some of the power away from that. One of the arguments for Mahomes is O-line is massively inferior. While he has Kelsey and Hill, the consensus seems to be that Adams is better than either of them, and Rodgers has a great running game and option with Jones. I would take a complete swap of our what do you call them, like the receivers and tight ends or whatever the whatever that term is. Like I would take a swap of all of ours for all of theirs any goddamn day of the week. Yes, Devontae, we're going to take a step down with whoever they have, but taking a step from Devontae Adams to Tyreek Hill, but you take a huge step up to Travis Kelce. I think that Aaron Jones to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is that right? I think that's a little bit of a step down, but I don't think it's a huge step. I mean, I would take that trade night and day without a second thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think those teams are very similar. Like, you have Edwards-Helaire, you've got Le'Veon Bell. They have a couple other guys that they mix in, Darwin Thompson, the other Williams guy, and then they have the Damian Williams who opted out due to COVID. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
are pretty stacked in terms of their, skill position. So I would say they're probably even more stacked than the Packers are, because if you're comparing Alan Lazard to Nicole Hardman, or if you're comparing MBS to Sammy Watkins, or if you're
Right.
comparing, like Equinemius St. Brown to Byron Pringle, like you're getting really deep here, but you're not saying, oh, well, these guys on the Packers are so much better. Like, I think that they match up pretty well. So it really becomes, who is doing more with what their system allows them to do. And looking at the Packers, I don't know that the Packers want to be as pass heavy as they are, but they are because Aaron Rodgers is good at it. As to
Right.
where the Chiefs, they want to be pass heavy. They
Yep.
look at the running game and go, sure, we'll hand the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire 7 times a game. That's cool, but they want to pass.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And historical gamers saying that Rodgers has the edge, but if he throws an interception and they lose versus the Bears and Mahomes sits, I think he gets the edge. I think a loss to the Bears would be a pretty big blow against his MVP chances, but I still think, I mean, even statistic wise, if you look at it, to me, in my mind, I think it's a no-brainer. I think he should be the MVP. But the simple fact is that people look at wins, especially when it comes to quarterbacks. And if he doesn't have a great game and they lose to the Bears, I think that definitely is going to hamper, and he could lose it just on that alone.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too deep into this topic because we got a lot of other stuff to go on, but I saw a comment in the chat about stuff like yards per carry and things like that. And some of these stats are very flawed stats. Like there's a lot of podcasts that I listen to that talk about, oh, yards per carry, but then you have to look at situation too, because you have these backup guys that come in and everybody's like, oh man, he's got like a 6.8 yards per carry. Yeah, it's because he gets, 100 carries a year, and he's
Right.
come in after the starting running back has been grinding there all game and getting his 20 carries, and the defense is just exhausted. So this guy comes in and goes, hey, it's me. And like there's a lot of like kind of mushy data when it comes to that stuff, but I think
Yeah.
in the end, getting back to our original topic, I'm going with Rodgers.
Yep. I agree. I think he gets the edge. We'll see. Spinning. I'm spinning. I'm spinning. I'm spinning. And it looks like, oh God, I really wanted to come into 2021 looking at things from a very positive point of view. And I wanted to step away from all the negativity. But now I got to talk about this office super spreader, and I'm not going to be positive about this, but tell us what this is all about so I can get angry.
All right, so to make you angry, there was a person in Oregon who went to work sick and likely caused 2 separate COVID-19 outbreaks, resulting in 7 deaths and forcing more than 300 people into quarantine, officials in Douglas County said. They said that a person knowingly went to work while they were sick and later tested positive for COVID-19. The recent outbreaks in the county were traced back to that individual through contact tracing. One of the outbreaks had over 300 people and families that were placed into quarantine. The Douglas County clerk said, we can't even imagine the tremendous remorse these people are feeling right now, and we sympathize with them. Now,
They
we
fucking
talked
suck.
about this before. We talked about this before, right? And this is the number one thing that we need to kick is people going to work and doing shit when they are sick. Because number one, self-care, but number two, stop being selfish. And there's a lot that goes into this, right? Because some people will say, oh, well, maybe that person doesn't get paid enough to take days off, or they don't have sick time, or yes, there's lots of different reasons why someone would feel like they have to go to work. But I think that's something that office culture should also think about and make sure that people are not incentivized to go to work while sick. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different layers to this, and you bring up a good point, right? Like and we've talked about this before. There's some people who just can't take off work, right? Like I have to be in an office, or I have to be in the restaurant, or I have to be at the bar, whatever the case may be. Not that those things should necessarily be open, but yeah, I have to be there to do my job. If I'm not there to do my job, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid, I don't have a place to live. I can't feed my kids, whatever the case may be. So yes, there needs to be, we have to look at things from a bigger picture on that too. But you still fucking went to work sick. You are the very likely result of you doing that is 300 and some people who are sick that could very well have long-term physical impacts from this disease. What'd you say? 7 people are fucking dead? Like, fuck you to you and whoever forced you that situation, if there was somebody. Like, that's just 100% complete goddamn garbage. And I get it. There are pressures, and I don't know what pressures this person was under. And maybe they felt that they had to do that. Maybe they were pressured by their boss or by their, family situation or whatever the case may be. But dude, this is not okay. You are putting people's lives at risk and took lives from people because you made a selfish fucking decision. And I have zero fucking remorse for this person. And honestly, I would not even be upset if we start holding people accountable to this kind of bullshit. Personally, like there's got to be a fault somewhere, right? Fault has to lie somewhere. You made a fucking poor ass decision. If I decided to go driving drunk and I killed somebody, guess what's going to happen? I'm probably going to go to fucking prison because I made a bad decision. Someone died. Well, this fucker made a bad decision and 7 people died. Like, isn't there any recourse to that?
Yeah, and that's the hard part with something like this because people will be like, "Oh, well, I wasn't sick." Da 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 da, and it's like, it's just a really crappy situation. But I think that your thought process on that is interesting because that might be something that businesses could look at too. Like, if you are sick, or if you are this, or if you are that, do not come to work.
Right. Yeah, and again, I get it. It's hard. There's a lot of gray area there that needs to be looked into. I get that. I get it. But we're still sitting in a situation where stupid fucking things like this are causing people to get sick, are causing people to die. They're infecting hundreds of people, thousands of people because people are making these stupid decisions. There are decisions being made in businesses that are fucking stupid. I mean, there's just a lot of stupid stuff happening, and it doesn't help any that the jackass at the top for the next 19 days or whatever it is the one that's doing the same thing, right? He's perpetrating the same kind of, it's okay, get out there and go to the bars and go to whatever. And this shit is blowing up all over the place. And it's just irritating, man. We're putting people, we should be caring for one another in every aspect of life. That's the only way that a community can thrive. And not only are we not caring for people, we are actively putting people at risk. It's fucking asinine.
Very true. I think you've summed up this topic very nicely.
All right. And I'm just going to call out old man Wiggum. That's 100% where I'm at. If you're forced to work, business should be held liable. Completely agree.
Yep.
Spinning the old wheel. God damn it. I'm angry now.
It wouldn't be 2021 without it, right?
Yeah, well, now I can get more angry. $2,000 poison pill. What's up with that?
All right, so you know how this works. We talked about this before, how our fun politician friends like to put things in bills to make people do things that they normally might not want to do. So I do need to find this article, so give me 1 minute. This is the downside to having lots of different things
Right?
on
You gotta find them all.
our board. It is very difficult to find them all because then I start going, okay, which one is it? It's not that one. Definitely not that one.
No, it was the other
All
one.
right, there we go. See, this is me because I named it something different and I scrolled by it. So this is a good convention for 2021 to have naming conventions across all of our documents. So I called this Mo Money, Mo Problems because, that old song. But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell introduced legislation to combine 2 additional demands from President Donald Trump to an expansion of direct stimulus payments as part of the COVID-19 relief package. This has raised concern that the pathway for the expanded stimulus payments would soon be short-circuited. So this bill that our individual has put forward is that it's combining the direct payment increase to $2,000 with a repeal of the online liability protections known as Section 230
They fucking
and
suck.
and the establishment of a commission to study voter fraud.
They fucking suck.
So these are the two issues that have been drivers of President Trump's ire in the wake of his general election loss. So this is basically what different legislators have been calling a poison pill because Chris Murphy, a Connecticut Democrat, said if we start adding poison pills to the $2,000 payment, that is another way of telling the American people that this body does not support giving $2,000 payments. And really, that's what it is because they're trying to just force this stuff down through people's faces and say, look, if you want to say that you're helping people like you are, you're going to accept all of this other stuff. And you know what? I kind of. It just bothers me because my mom always used to have a saying. She used to say, you can put hope in one hand and put shit in the other, and you can see which one fills up first. So every time we're hoping that these politicians are going to get their shit together, all they're doing is shitting in our hand. And this is another example of that because they're trying to push this stuff with Section 230 and the Fraud Commission and all of this stuff that has been debunked, right? Like, we're done with this, but they're like, no, we're not done with it. And we're going to hold your money that you might need to sustain your life hostage until you give us this thing that we want.
Yeah, this is, it's typical politics, right? Like, this is how they try to work around making it look like, yes, I want to give you whatever it is. In this case, $2,000. We want to do this. We're doing it. We're putting a bill forward. Look at Mitch McConnell. I'm giving you the $2,000. Here's the bill. And then, of course, they add all this stupid bullshit on the back end. And then that they know the other side is not going to support, right? And so then the other side says, well, no, we're not voting for that. And then good old Mitch can say, look, I tried, man. I put it out there. I 100% was behind you. Well, no, I mean, it's basically what you're saying is, yeah, I'll give you $10. But I'm going to kick you in the face 10 times. Well, I don't want your 10 fucking dollars then. Go fuck yourself if you're going to kick me in the face. That's what they're doing. And they do this time and time and time again. This is the way shit works in DC. If you read any of these bills that they're putting out, even that defense bill, there's all this bullshit in there that has no right in there. Like the reason these bills are hundreds and thousands of pages long is because it's full of horse shit. Like it should be as simple as, we're going to give you $2,000. There you go. Just sign on it. We're done. Like, just do it. But they make everything so complicated. Everything is so goddamn political. And that's why shit doesn't get done. And to your mom's point, that's what politicians do. That's what they've always done. That's what they're always going to fucking do. They're ruled by party politics. They're ruled by big business and big dollars that are spent. And that's just the way it is. And unless we, honestly, as crazy a thought as it is, until we abolish the fucking system the way that it is right now, it's never going to change. It's just never going to change.
Right. And the sad part about all of this is you look at these folks, and there are people who are like, well, I don't want to give $2,000 to this person who's just going to save it or
Yeah.
who's not going to spend it right away. And it's like, look, at this point, and I was talking to one of my friends who he is conservative, but he also looks at things from a fiscal perspective. And he's like, look, basically with something like the stimulus is you are trying to get a trickle down effect into the economy. So yes, there are going to be people who are going to save this money. There are going to be people who are going to pay off their credit cards. But a majority of people are going to spend this money as intended. And basically what you're doing is you're just trying to take kind of like a shotgun approach. You're just going to put a shotgun blast of money into the world. And even though you're looking at a really tiny target, you're probably going to hit that target, even though maybe you're going to miss some. But the important part is you're helping people, and that's what people need right now.
Yeah, it's just the whole thought that people might save the money is just, it blows my mind. Like, first of all, you motherfuckers, most people aren't sitting here in a cushy ass job that you only work 100 days a year, that you can work from home. You get this super expensive health care. You're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not where most people are. The reason why we need to get this money out there, and this is a paltry amount of money. Let's be honest. This is a slap in the face. This is a huge slap in the face. We need this because people can't eat. We need this because people are getting kicked out of their fucking house. That's why we need this shit. Like, this isn't for me to pay off my Macy's credit card. Now, sure, some people are in a position where that's what they would use it for. Great, fine. Now you have an extra $600 to feed your kids or whatever the case may be. But people, like real people, need this money to survive. So the fact that they throw out there, oh, they're just going to put it in their safe. Big fucking deal. What is $600 going to do in your fucking savings? What is $2,000 going to do in your fucking savings? That's like what? Maybe a month's worth of savings if you're on minimum wage, give or take. I'm not running the numbers right now, but it's something like that. Like, so we're upset that someone who's living on bare means right now might possibly, perhaps, maybe, if just for some strange, crazy reason, possibility, they happen to be treading water right now. If they just so happen to be able to take that and put it in the bank so that they're safe in case they lose their waitressing job for 1 month, they can maybe pay the bills. We want to throw a fit about that? Get the fuck over yourself, man.
Yep, that's pretty much where we're at. So let's see if we can spin the wheel and find a topic that won't make you as angry. I can't guarantee it though. There's a lot of landmines out here
I know.
tonight.
It's make Big C angry day apparently. What is this? Oh, see now this one doesn't make me angry. I love this one. Twisted Tea slaps.
All right. So there was a viral video that came out in the holiday season about Twisted Tea. So you may have seen Twisted Tea trending on Twitter. And do you believe that I said that without tripping up? Because that was pretty fancy.
That's pretty good.
A white male in a convenience store used the N-word several times, taunting a man in line. That man then holstered a can of Twisted Tea, and after being taunted by the other man, saying, "Smack me," and calling him the N-word again, the man slapped him in the face with the can of Twisted Tea. So Twisted Tea slaps, literally. Now, there are a couple thoughts that I have about this. One, you kind of deserved it. But I also am a little concerned, like, did this man have any type of, and I don't want to throw it out here, but I'm going to, like, did he have any type of disability where, like, he doesn't know what he's saying, or is he just being a dick? Like, I don't know. Like, this is, a 2-minute video, so you don't know who this guy is. You don't know why he's using this word as much as he is. You don't know anything about this man. All you know is that he keeps turning to this man in line and calling him the N-word, and the man in line done had it. And he slapped that man with that Twisted Tea. And, for that minute, you're just like, all right, brother, you showed that man. What are your thoughts, Christopher?
I kind of look at it both rationally and irrationally, right? The more irrational side of my brain says, you're going to act like an asshole, you're going to get treated like an asshole. And he got treated like a fucking asshole. The other side of me, though, is like, should you really be putting hands on somebody? Like if you're the one to instigate that, I don't know. That seems a little bit off. But the simple fact of the matter is, you don't go running around calling black people the N-word. Like, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? Like, what? And I'll add, I'll even talk about your point, which I don't really agree with, and I don't think it's a great point. I don't care if there's something mentally wrong with the guy. Maybe he's got some issues there. Fine. Then someone should be watching him, or maybe he shouldn't be out on his own, or maybe this will be a lesson to him. I know that makes me an asshole too, but at some point, if you're running your mouth and you're being incredibly abusive to somebody, they're going to react. That's just the way that it is. Now, does that mean that the way this person reacted was right? Does it mean that they shouldn't face some repercussions for that? Probably not. Like, I mean, you can't just go around smacking people, even though they're being assholes to you. But I think this is a situation where I think that we could have a conversation about this for a great long time, right? Because I don't think anybody can look at what the we'll say the offending dude did. Nobody can look at that with any sense. Like, let's be honest, there's certain people that would say, oh yeah, you tell him. But most people aren't going to look at that and say, what he did is okay, right? He was past the line. Way over the line. But on the other side, you have to look at the person who just assaulted him, which is what it was. That's kind of over the line too. Now, everybody has to look at that individually and say, did he deserve it? Is that okay? Whatever. I think legally, he probably can't smack the guy with a can of Twisted Tea. But on the flip side, where I'm at, again, if you're acting like an asshole, you're going to get treated like an asshole. Just that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this basically kind of goes back to old school, right? Where it's like, it reminds me of the Friday movie where you fight with your hands, right?
Yeah.
So this man, and the thing about it, at first it didn't really seem like the guy wanted to do it. Like he had the can, and he was just holding it, and he dropped it, and the other dude was just sitting there taunting him and
Yeah.
taunting him and taunting him. It's kind of like, when you put your hand in a cage, eventually you're going to get bit. Like this is, again, two wrongs don't make a right, but
That's true.
that video and honestly, the best part about this entire video were all of the meme spin-offs
Oh,
where
yeah,
like
for sure.
they used the like sound of the can and like turned it into songs, or it's like, oh, now it's Twisted Tea as Dave Matthews Band, or Twisted Tea as Bruno Mars, or like, so Twisted Tea definitely got some
Oh, they got
got some pub out of
damn
this.
pub. Yeah. I guess the last thing that I would say on this one is, when we look back at 2020 as a whole, obviously there was all sorts of social and racial things that had happened, right? There's a lot of negative things that happened, and a lot of protests, and a lot of conversations, and a lot of that type of stuff. We all know, without a shadow of a doubt, we know there are very racist and angry and horrible people in this world, in this country specifically. We know that they're out there. We know that some of them are going way, way over the line. Some of them are more casually racist assholes, but we know that that's a serious, serious problem that needs to be handled, right? I would argue that everybody in that gas station, I think it was a gas station, I think they all knew all this shit that's been happening too, right? So the fact that this is one of those people, that where he falls on the I'm a racist line, I don't know, maybe he's less racist, maybe he's more racist. He's clearly racist enough to berate a black man and call him the N-word to his face. I just don't have sympathy for you, man. I'm sorry. Was it right what the guy did? Probably not, but I have zero sympathy for you. Like, you're clearly an asshole, and somebody needed to smack some sense into you, metaphorically or not. And I think maybe hopefully they did. But here's the other side of things is, if this is more than just a white guy, hey, it's kind of cool to use that word because it's kind of edgy, because I know there's a lot of that too. If this is somebody who truly has those beliefs, or even if it's just the edgy part, this may just help cement those feelings and maybe push him even further to the I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, the extremist side, right? So I don't know. There's again a lot of gray area in there, but I enjoyed the video. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough. I mean, it's unfortunate. Like you said, people's experiences feel validated based on what happens to them. So if this person did
Yeah.
have any feelings some kind of way, he's definitely going to have more feelings. But again, let's try to spin and see if we can come up with something that's not going to make us angry or sad or just feel. It's 2021, man. We got to feel happy and like positive for at least one day, right?
All right. So here's the good news. We're going to talk about candy.
Oh, yeah.
Until we
This
actually
one,
get into the whole what we're talking about candy for, then it's just angry again.
it's true, but you know what this is, Christopher. You know what this is here.
What is it?
It is the ZEKE.
Oh wait, I gotta figure out which one it is. I think it is
Zeke Elliott, feed me of the week.
So you know our friend Zeke, he likes to get that money, and Hershey's is following in his footsteps. So there's a real David and Goliath situation unfolding in Chicago, and it has to do with beer. A brewery is being pitted against the candy behemoth Hershey's as Hershey's tries to protect its product. So Side Lot Brewing has made some beer offerings in the last couple years. They featured a pale ale made with Jolly Ranchers and a milk stout or a porter made with Milk Duds. So they basically publicized them in that way with that language, and it reached a law firm that represents Hershey's. Dun dun dun. So the Halloween offerings basically reached Hershey's, and then Hershey's sent the man a cease and desist. The cease and desist told the bar that they had to get rid of the beer and they needed to report their sales numbers, which the bar did. So then Hershey's said that they need to come to a settlement and he has to pay money to the candy giant in the amount of over $8,000 because they used the name Jolly Ranchers and they used the name Milk Duds in promoting these beers. So, a legal analyst said that trademark law does not discriminate. If you use a name that's protected, you have to suffer the consequences. In any situation like this, you have to make a decision. Do I want to fight it? Do I want to settle it? Or do I want to compromise on it? So, the owner of this establishment said that he would want to compromise because otherwise it might cost him his business because he cannot write that check for $8,000. So, what are your thoughts on this, Christopher?
I mean, on the surface, it sucks, right? Because you got a small business owner who's running a brewery or a bar or whatever it is that he's running. Regardless, either way, you figure he's taken a hell of a blow over the course of 2020, right? So he's already losing income. Maybe he's struggling. Maybe he's barely holding on. But I think whether it's the popular opinion or not, I mean, Hershey's is in the right here. I mean, you can't go out there and use a brand that's already established and use that to make your own money, right? You can't do that. So I think that Hershey's could have found a way to kind of make their point without putting the guy in financial strains, right? Like, I mean, they work some kind of compromise, then okay, like what is $8,000 going to do for Hershey's, right? This is probably $1 billion company. Like $8,000 is nothing to them. So I think that they could be the quote unquote the bigger guy and come to a compromise and say, look, you just can't advertise it that way. Call it the chocolate ball stout or something. That sounds really weird, but whatever you want to call it, but you can't use our names. And tap him for pennies on the dollar or something, just as a symbolic, yes, okay, I agree, we're not going to do this, and then move on. Like I could see them doing that. I think that's more than enough. You get your point across, you get your name in the papers, and there's other people that are doing the same thing. Maybe they can get a heads up that, wow, don't do that anymore. But like taking the guy to task for all that money seems a little bit iffy.
Yeah, I mean, and this was interesting because this was posted by our friend Mike from Explorium, and he obviously has some experience with this because he is someone who runs an establishment. So it's always interesting, right? Because, like you said, they could do a lot. Like they could even use these ingredients, but you can't say, "Oh, this beer was made with Jolly Ranchers," or "This is a Milk Duds Porter." You got to call it, Milk Suds, or
Yeah,
like caramely balls porter, or like something that's like super generic. It's kind of like you can't call your bathroom tissue Charmin, but you can call it like soft cloud, and like
right.
everybody knows what it is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, it's like if you ever watched the TV show Chopped, right? They have all these stupid names for stuff, and I wish I'd thought of this ahead of time because I would have came up with one. But it's like fruity rocky cereal. Like bullshit. That's Fruity Pebbles. What are you fucking trying to say? Like we know what it is, but they come up with all these names because they don't want to say Fruity Pebbles and then pay royalties or whatever they have to do. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Historical Gamer had a good point. The money thing is probably just them trying to make sure nobody else does this. And that could be, right? Because it's going to cost Hershey's money every time the lawyers have to reach out and send a letter or whatever they need to do. So in a way, it's saving them money too, just to say, hey, you need to pay all this money. But you know what? Can't you just settle that and just sign an NDA? Look, we're gonna give you, a fine. You can pay us $10 and we're done. Like that's it. Pay the $10, maybe pay our lawyer fees, whatever, but sign an NDA because nobody else needs to know about that. Maybe do something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and Wiggum has said in the chat, can we talk about the importance of how delicious these sound? Now,
That's true.
the milk suds, I'm only going to call it milk suds because I don't need none of that smoke, but milk suds over here does sound delicious. Now, the Jolly Ranch Arrow, all right, we'll just call it whatever, but that one, now like some, Mexican restaurant is going to come after me
Right.
because they
Jolly
probably
Ranchero, that's the name of our main dish.
right? But like, that one, it's not a sour, so you're not gonna like it, Wiggum.
You
But
might
it
like it.
does. It does sound interesting.
It does. And it's close by, so maybe we should go check it out.
Yeah, well, eventually when we can go travel again. But for
Yeah.
now, what are your thoughts on spinning the wheel here and seeing if we can get another one or two in here?
All right, it's already spinning.
All right.
It's looking like believing misinformation. You had a different name for this one. What'd you call this one?
This because the article talked a lot about QAnon, so I was
Oh,
talking
yeah, you named
about
it QAnon or something. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, there was a kind of a poll and article that came out through NPR that a significant number of Americans believe misinformation about the origins of the coronavirus and the recent political election, as well as conspiracy theories like QAnon. So I read this and I said, yeah, that seems legit. But for example, 40% of respondents said they believe the coronavirus was made in a lab in China, even though there's no evidence for this.
40%.
40%. And 1/3 of Americans believe that voter fraud helped Joe Biden win the election. Now, my question, and I didn't find this in the article, maybe I didn't dive deep enough, is I want to know how many people exactly they polled because these numbers, is that like 40% of 100 people? Is that 40% of 1,000 people? Is that 40% of like 10,000 people? Because I think that would be significant to me because with statistics, you can tell any kind of story that you really want with statistics. But the interesting thing about all of this is another poll, part of the poll, asked respondents whether they believe that a group of Satan worshiping elites who run a child sex ring are trying to control our politics and media. And while only 17% said that they thought that was true, 37% of people said they weren't sure. Now, one of the individuals associated with this said it's totally bonkers, and yet essentially half of Americans believe that it's true or think maybe that it's true. They don't really know, and I think that's terrifying that half of Americans believe that these type of things could be the case.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, the number of people polled was just over 1,000, 1,115. So, for what that's worth. Yeah, I think, so my initial gut response to this article and these results or these poll findings is that people are fucking dumb. Like, seriously. But I think it goes beyond dumb, and I think it goes to uneducated, or beyond that is just unlearned. Is that a word? Like people aren't reading, people aren't understanding information, they're not digesting information, or they're digesting bad information. And let's not forget that Jackhole in office 4 years ago, plus more than 4 years ago, started this whole you can't trust the media, you can't trust this, you can't trust that. So people are getting their information from shoddy ass sources. Facebook is where most people are going to be getting their news, right? Facebook is full of goddamn horrible fake news. I hate to use that term, but it's misleading and it's bogus news from they're not even journalists, right? It's like some dude on the corner who's typing in his fucking phone on Facebook. And that's what people believe. That's what people are understanding. And then on top of that, you've got Jackhole in office who's telling you can't believe any of the press, which some of them are certainly garbage, but a lot of them aren't. And so you got people who don't understand how to. First of all, you got people who don't care, people who aren't getting news, or they're getting their news from what shows up in their Facebook feed. And even those who may be looking for news, even the stuff in Facebook, they're not looking at it from any sort of critical eye. It's just like whatever pops up, that's what I'm going to believe because it's popping up in my news stories. And so isn't news communicated via memes? It basically is, man. It's so ridiculous. Like that's what's driving people, and it's just insane. Like some of the numbers on here are just such garbage, and that's the world we live in. Like, how do we fix that though? Like people don't care.
Well, and we've gotten to a point where people seek out news and news sources and things to basically validate their own opinions that they've already formed, as opposed to seeking out things to challenge themselves or to round out their opinions, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
people are seeking out, like, oh, here's an article that says this, and here's an article that says that, and here's a thing that says this. And well, I don't believe that because here's a thing that I read. And it's like, I saw something like that the other day on Facebook, and I was like, nope, I just need to shut it down because
Yeah.
this is kind of ridiculous. And I think as people get more close-minded, this is only going to get worse.
Yeah. Well, and the more that things are polarized, right? Because everything is polarized along political boundaries and about racial boundaries and um, gender boundaries and sexuality, all these different things, religion boundaries. Like people are drawing these lines, and I think we've always had those lines to some small degree, right? Um, like I can't marry somebody from a different faith, something like that, which is a little bit more innocent than, wait a second, you've got a black person on your family tree 7 generations ago. Well, you are a person that I have to hate, and I need to throw rocks at you and whatever, right? Like you are an end person because of that. These lines that used to be maybe a little twig in the sand is now like a fucking wall on the border of the country. Like that's kind of where we're at. And the more that we separate ourselves into these little groups, the more we're never, ever, ever going to be able to work together and see things together and grow and move past all this ugly shit.
Yep, that's fair. So now I think that depending on how much time we have, I'm considering throwing my challenge flag. I'm basically pacing on the sideline, trying to figure out what the game situation is here, if I
Do it.
need to throw my flag or not.
Do it.
All right, so I'm going to throw my challenge flag this week because I want to talk to you about the Booger McFarland story.
I
So,
was
black
waiting for it.
players in the NFL, because I feel like this is one that we can have a very interesting discussion about. So, Booger McFarland, who is an analyst on ESPN, was talking about Dwayne Haskins, who we talked about a couple weeks ago. Dwayne Haskins did not have a good holiday season, for those of you who are not aware. So, he was initially benched and demoted to third string for the Washington football team this year. And then he was put back into the starter's role due to injury, only to then go out to the strip club and then have his captainship demoted. And then he played poorly. And then he was released from the team. So things have not gone well for Dwayne Haskins. And Booger McFarland addressed the release of Haskins' off field issues, and painted them as part of what he sees as a larger problem among NFL players. McFarland said, oftentimes young players, especially young African American players, because they make up 70% of the league, they come into the league and ask themselves the wrong thing. They come into the league saying, not how can I be a better player? How can I be a better teammate? Not how can I be a better person? Not how can I get my organization over the hump? But they come in saying, how can I build my brand better? How can I build my social media following better? How can I work out on Instagram and show everybody that I'm ready to go, but when I get to the game, I don't perform? So these comments were dissected online because Booger, people have this like strange love-hate relationship with Booger anyway, because they're like, oh, he's terrible as an announcer, but we love him, but we don't, but we do, but we don't. But some people looked at these comments and said, yeah, I agree. Like, more people need to take this and be serious about it. And other people were like, how dare you say that? You don't know anything about this, that, or the other. So before I kind of give you my thoughts, I want to hear your thoughts, Christopher. When you heard about this, what did you think? How did it make you feel? And where do you think it's going?
Well, the first thing is that my eyes got about this big. So I think one thing that the article that I read about this, and I'm not sure if it's the same one that you marked into here, but they brought up a good point, and I think the one name that I'll bring up is Johnny Manziel. I mean, seems to be a pretty good example of what you don't want to do. What about Ryan Leaf? There's another one, right? He brought up Jamarcus Russell, so I think Ryan Leaf is very comparable to that. So it goes across racial lines, and I don't know if he was trying to just be, a shock jock kind of thing, trying to get his name in the papers. I don't know. Maybe it's simply him seeing someone that looks like him who is making a bad decision, and maybe that's something that he ties to a bunch of other people. He called out Jamarcus Russell, and maybe this was his way, and I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this is his way of trying to help people that look like him, help black people who are black guys, young black guys who are coming into the league, who maybe aren't ready for the fame and the fortune and everything that comes with it. Maybe that's what it is, trying to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But I think the simple fact of the matter is this happens to everybody. It happens to everyone in all walks of life that comes into the NFL. There's there's always a risk that people are going to make really, really poor decisions because they're, it's you're coming a lot of these guys, especially the ones that are the really, really big busts, right? The only way you're that big of a bust is if you're that big of a name coming in, right? The only way you're that big of a name coming in is generally because you were very, very good in college. If you were very, very good in college, you pretty much didn't have to do anything, right? I mean, we've all heard the stories. We all know how things work. Like you're gonna graduate, you're not gonna get kicked out of class. You just keep showing up on the football field and helping us win games. We'll take care of everything else, right? Everything's handed to them. They're superstars on campus. Not everybody lets that go to their head, but some people do, right? So now all of a sudden I'm going from an environment where I don't really have to do shit. I just show up, throw the football or run the football or whatever I have to do. And now you're stepping into a league where you're not more talented than everybody else that's there. And you need to work your ass off. You need to take this seriously. You need to show up and actually work. And on top of that, now you've got all this fame and you got all this money that's coming after you. So of course people are going to struggle. Do more black guys struggle than white guys or other nationality? I don't know. But I think the fact that he took this and made it not about somebody struggling and made it about a black somebody struggling. Like you could say Dwayne Haskins struggled. These are the things that he failed on. This is what we need to watch out for. Done. End of story. This doesn't even show up anywhere, right? Instead, he said Dwayne Haskins, a black man, failed on all these things. In part, he's saying because he's a black man, right? That's what he's saying, and that's where the problem came in. So I don't know if he was trying to do this positively or if he was trying to make a big splash. I don't know. That's what I got.
Yeah, and I think, and one of the things that I thought about is this kind of goes back to a lot of the conversations that we've had where you kind of have to keep, and I'm going to use the term like unwrapping that onion in some ways, because in some ways, if he's making this about race, is he talking about a lot of the inequities that happen from, birth for some individuals where they might not have the knowledge and the training and the whatever, so that when they get into this high packed pressure spot, maybe they don't know how to react. Is like that the angle that he was taking? Because if that's the angle that he's taking, then I think that's an interesting conversation. But it's also, like you said, there are players from all different walks of life who have come into the NFL and either achieved success or have not achieved success. And, the mistakes that people have made, like everybody's different. Like you have folks like you said, Johnny Manziel, there's Jake Locker, there's lots of guys who just kind of flamed out, and there's other guys who they had their personal struggles, like Darren Waller, a tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders right now. Like he came in the league and everybody was high on him and he didn't do anything because he had his own kind of like substance abuse problems, and until he was able to get that under control, like he didn't do well. But now that that's good and that's behind him, like he's doing great. So I think this conversation maybe should not have been put under the lens of race, but maybe under the lens of education. Because if you were to say, I feel like NFL players who come in and they make these mistakes, we've seen this time after time. We've seen that people are too wrapped up into building their brand instead of building their self into team. Like I think those are a lot of valid concerns, because you see a lot of that. You see a lot of people, it's the old Nick Barnett where you're down, 20 and you're dancing because you'd made a tackle on third and 20 yards down the field. Dude, you gave up the first down. Stop dancing, right? Like these are the kind of things that we honestly do see in the league. So I feel like you said, there's some pros and cons here, but I feel like this is definitely a longer conversation, because it sucks to see these guys who have talent, piss it all away because they want to go to the strip club, or they aren't hitting the playbook like they should, or they're, pissing off their coach who's an old school guy. And, the thing about a lot of this is we just don't know. Like there's so many talented players, and we just, like, I think of like Dante Pettis. Like he's a guy that everybody was high on, and like he got ran out of San Francisco. He's on his second team in like 2 years, but like why he got ran out of San Francisco, we don't know. And like these are just things that we're not going to know.
Yeah, I think if his intention was to cause a bit of a stink, I mean, at least he did with us. I don't know if it's blown up beyond kind of what we're talking about, but if his intention was to actually raise awareness and try to bring change to this isn't how you do it. Like, this is a guy who is a former NFL player. This is a guy who works for ESPN talking about NFL games, right? This is a guy who has access to people who can actually make a change. And we know, anybody that pays attention to the NFL knows that they've got all sorts of conferences that young players go into, right? Like, this is what's going to happen when you get to the training camp. This is what's going to happen with your money. And this is what you need to be careful of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? They bring players in, they bring coaches in, they bring in people who've struggled with that. They bring in all these people to talk to them and say, look, this is what's happening. Go that route. Go to the NFL and say, look, this is what I'm seeing. I am seeing a disproportionate amount of young black men coming into the league who are struggling with X, Y, and Z, and I think this is something that we really need to account for. Or if the NFL doesn't want to do it themselves, do it on your own. Create something on your own. He's got the name. He could run it by his people at ESPN. Maybe it even shows up on ESPN. I mean, there's a lot of different avenues where he could have gone to do something very positive to try to make a change. And I'm 100% there, right? Like, I mean, if you are making stupid ass fucking decisions, like going out to a strip club in the middle of a fucking pandemic when you know that you can't do that, that's a stupid fucking decision. Now, did he make that decision because he's black? Fuck no, he made the decision because he just made a dumb decision. He wasn't thinking right? So figure out a way to try to bring that change to him. Now, if you had sat down with Dwayne Haskins 3 days before the whole strip club thing and said, look, these are some things that I've seen, and this is the way it impacts people, and this is how it could impact your career, and blah, 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 blah. Would he have listened? Would he still go to the strip club 3 days later? I don't know. Maybe he would. And that's on him, right? All you can do is try to put people in the best position to allow them to succeed. And at that point, it's on them. Because even though they are young black men, they are still men. And it is up to them to do what's right. But give them all the tools possible. Don't just sit there and run your mouth on ESPN and cause a big stink. Like, do something about it. Try to make a change. And that's where I think that's the issue I had with it.
Yeah, there, like you said, there's better ways. Like, I know, and I don't want to run too long on this topic, but I know, for example, in the pro wrestling community, there's a African American wrestler, Mark Henry, and he talks a lot about how he reaches out to some of the young African Americans in the business, and he tries to smarten them up about, like, look, here's the way that you need to handle yourself in the wrestling business if you want to be successful. And there are some guys who have, like, basically gone against what he told them, and he's like, look, I tried to help you, man, but now you're on your own. Like, I reached out for you. I gave you the olive branch. You kicked the branch. Now it's on you.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I think you really summed that up well.
Cool. All right. Is it time to move on?
I think it is.
Is it time for it, B?
Oh, I think so.
I think it's time then for
Random rankings.
All right. So today we have everyone's favorite topic just after the holidays, ways to lose weight, except not really. So we've got pie. So Wiggum has requested it, and we have now delivered. Not literally, since all of the Baker Square locations in Wisconsin are now closed, but it's a pie draft. So we are going to draft the pies from Baker Square. There are 16 pies, and I think if we are efficient, we can get through all 16 of these where we each get 8 each in a snake style draft. So we're going to have to randomize this, and then we will get going and see who gets the pie of old man Wiggum's eye.
Wiggum says, don't screw this up.
Oh, I mean, I already know how this is going to go for me, but I have accepted my fate already.
All right, I'm randomizing, and dun dun dun, I get to go first.
No.
So I did actually do some research. By research, I mean I just thought about it. I took a look at the list and I put them in order.
Pictures?
Got them in order. No, I didn't. I didn't need to look at the pictures really. There is some weird, like, there's like 3 different apple pies and 2 different pumpkin pies, but that doesn't really impact me because I am taking the French silk as my number 1 pick.
Oh, all right. I was not expecting that.
No,
So
no.
that's actually a present to me. But tell us, Why are we going French silk?
Well, so what I did is I just kind of I looked at the list and I was like, of these, which one would I be most likely to order on a normal day, right? So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't specific to a time of year, right? Because if it's around Thanksgiving, I'm always going to want a pumpkin pie. If it's around the holidays, probably going to be some sort of apple pie. But I was looking like, if it's June, what kind of pie would I like? And the French silk, which is super rich, and so I generally can't eat a lot of it. But dude, I just love the taste of that one. So that's an easy number one for me.
All right. Well, the nice part about that is that was on my list, but now that you have taken it, you have relieved a burden from my shoulders. So I will start my draft with something that's not a pie.
Okay.
I am going to go with the carrot cake.
Uh-huh.
Now, I have a very fun story about carrot cake and how I was told that it was 1995 even, which there are no even numbers in 1995. But the carrot cake there is delicious. Like, I'm not like a huge fan of like carrot cake, but I do really like the cream cheese frosting and things like that. So that one is one that I'm going to take first. Now, I am a little bit torn here on my second options, but as you said, there are like 47 different types of apple pie. So I'm not terribly concerned if I don't get the prime apple that I want. So and there are also lots of different types of berry pies. So again, like if I don't get the very specific berry that I want, I'm not going to cry or be sad. But if I don't get this one, I will be sad. So I am going to go with the Southern pecan pie because you got the toasted Texas pecans and a luxurious caramel filling baked inside the golden flaky pie crust.
That's a really good pick. Actually, those were both pretty high on my list. So that upsets me a little bit. Thank you for the heads up on the visual, Wiggum. So we got that there. All right, Southern pecan and carrot cake. Mark that off in green. Okay, so those were actually my numbers 4 and 5, which means I'm going to get my 1, 2, and 3 picks. That's not bad. That's not bad. So my number 2 is cheesecake. And of course, I'm going to put some strawberries on that cheesecake. But I'm all about that cheesecake. And then I'm taking the triple berry pie. Apparently, I'm all about the berries. So yeah, so those are definitely me. I love cheesecake. Cheesecake is amazing, and I could eat cheesecake every day of the freaking year. And when I think about pie, I like berry pies. Like if there's a strawberry pie on here, that might have been my number one. Besides strawberry rhubarb, nobody gives a shit about that.
Do you not like strawberry rhubarb? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not telling you because then it's going to give stuff away. But triple berry's got all the good stuff in it. So yeah, triple berry and the cheesecake. Wiggum's already says that you won, so clearly he is delusional. But it's your pick. You got 2. What do you got?
Oh, see now I feel like you have me on tilt a little bit because you're throwing shade at the strawberry rhubarb, and I don't know if you're throwing like real shade at it or if you're just trying to lull me into a false sense of security. But I am looking at my pie options and I am going to immediately snatch up the coconut cream pie. So it's a buttery vanilla cream filling blended with shredded coconut, then topped with real whipped cream and toasted coconut shavings. Now, again, the way that these drafts always go is people are like, all of your pies and cakes and ice cream have too much. We need something that's just, just down the line. But that's still one that I'm going to go with. And while looking at this list, right? So you've got right now, you've got 2 different kinds of apple, 2 different kinds of lemon, 2 different kinds of pumpkin. Then you've got cherry, and actually there's 3 different kinds of apple. Holy cripes.
Yeah, there's a lot of apple on there.
So at this point, I think I'm just going to stick with my brand and I'm going to actually take strawberry rhubarb. I like strawberry rhubarb because when I was young, my grandma used to make strawberry rhubarb pies from like rhubarb that she would grow in the garden, and it was delicious. So I'm going to go with that. And the reason is I'm kind of looking at this from the perspective of like fantasy football, right? Like all of these things out here are like wide receiver threes in the infinite sadness. So all of these pies are kind of the same. So strawberry rhubarb, if I'd have missed out on that, I would have been sad.
Okay, that's fair. So I had my top 3, and then you took 4 and 5. Well, luckily for me, my 6 and 7 are both available. So I'm just gonna keep moving on down the line. And I'm gonna start with that country apple pie, which it's apple pie, like it's apple pie. By the way, Wiggum hated your coconut choice. And then I'm gonna take cherry pie, because like, is there anything like better than cherry pie? Besides the song. I mean, come on, that song is amazing too. Anyway, yeah, apple pie, cherry pie. I've got all the freaking classics in here. I got the new wage shit. I got cheesecake, which is a little bit different. Like, dude, this is over.
See, I feel like this just demonstrates like one of the big differences between us. Like you like the kind of very like simple singular flavors, and I go for like the stuff that has kind of different texture and context to it. But I'm going to do my best here, and I'm going to try to figure out, and I totally have kind of, there we go. Now I have to update my list so that it is correct. So I'm looking at these options. So I don't know why the harvest pumpkin, like one comes with whipped cream and one doesn't.
Right, that's
They're like,
stupid.
you don't get no whipped cream, player. So I think that I am going to actually take the harvest pumpkin with whipped cream, because that way you get stuck without whipped cream. And then I'm looking at the rest of these options, right? So we've got a French apple, which comes with a butter crust. We've got lemon meringue or lemon supreme. We've got the reduced sugar apple, and we've got peach. Now, I'm a little bit torn, because if I'm looking at these lemon, like I don't have a strong preference between one or the other. But I also feel like if I don't take the apple, you might steal that apple from me. So
Certainly possible.
I am going to go with that French apple, just so that I get that, because I'm sure I'll also end up getting stuck with the reduced sugar apple. Actually, no, I would not, because you went first. Okay, cool, cool. So those are my picks: harvest pumpkin with whipped cream and the French apple.
All right, cool. I'm trying to figure out what the difference is between lemon meringue and lemon supreme.
So the meringue is kind of like a spongy top, right? So I will read you lemon meringue. So lemon meringue, whipped and baked egg whites are toasted to golden brown to make the light, fluffy meringue that sits on top of an irresistible, tangy lemon filling. And then the typical, just the generic lemon is layers of tangy lemon filling and cool, creamy, supreme filling inside our golden pie crust.
Well, they've got the listed American Pie Council Award winner, and
Yeah.
the lemon meringue won it twice, and
Yeah.
the other one won it 11 times. So I'm going with the 11-time winner,
Yep.
taking
Yeah,
that lemon supreme.
I was going to go with lemon supreme, but I decided to take the apple in case you would have taken that apple.
I 100% would have. All right, lemon supreme. Add that to the list, and then I get the last pick, right? So I can leave harvest pumpkin because that'll probably come back. Or do you get the last pick?
You get so you get whatever. So you pick one here, and then I pick two, and then you get whatever.
Oh yeah, because
I
there's
don't
one
pick.
more. Okay.
Yep.
I guess I'm taking peach pie. I've never had peach pie, but it sounds kind of good.
All right.
Peach pie, interesting. All right.
All right. So that leaves me for sure with the lemon meringue. I actually like lemon meringue pie. It's one of those where like I wouldn't necessarily eat a whole pie of it. So having one nice slice does real good. And then I'm staring down the choice between harvest pumpkin and reduced sugar apple. Now, let me go read about reduced sugar apple, because reduced sugar apple might be okay or it might not be okay. I don't know. So what is reduced sugar apple? 0 added sugar, totally apple. Sweet, crisp Michigan apples seasoned to perfection with cinnamon and covered with the pastry crust. Now, I don't know that I really care that there's no sugar added to that, but I'm wondering, right? So I'm trying to flex here because I'm going to take the pumpkin so that you get stuck with 2 apples. So I've taken harvest pumpkin and harvest pumpkin with whipped cream because I can share my whipped cream.
Oh, I see how it is. All right. So harvest I put pumpkin. 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 There we go. All right. So harvest pumpkin. And was there a second one there? Or is that it?
Yeah, so we
lemon
had
meringue, right?
Yeah, I've got
2,
the
4,
carrot
6.
cake, pecan, coconut cream. Yep, 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6, 7. We're missing one of mine, but we got to
Yeah.
figure out which one it is. It was hold on, I have it on my sheet. I have carrot cake, pecan, coconut cream,
Oh, you took the
strawberry
lemon
rhubarb.
meringue, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the French. Yeah, the French apple is not in my
French.
list.
That's what old man Wiggum was saying.
Yep.
French apple. Okay, there we go. Then that leaves me
with the reduced sugar apple.
Reduced sugar apple. And that was it, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. I figure I'll have so much pie by that point I won't want to eat the reduced sugar apple anyway. All right, chat. So there we go. And not chat, people who are listening afterwards. So this is what we've got. Brian has carrot cake, southern pecan, coconut cream, strawberry rhubarb, harvest pumpkin with whipped cream, harvest pumpkin without whipped cream, lemon meringue, and French apple with a butter crust. I have got French silk, amazing, cheesecake, delicious, triple berry, unbelievable, country apple, so good, cherry, to die for, lemon supreme, peach, like Georgia, and reduced sugar apple, which no one's gonna eat anyway. So those are the 2 lists. Completely unbiased reading of the list. So let us know, chat, if anyone's out there. Give us a thumbs up. Old Man Wiggum's vote doesn't count, so anybody else, please let us know who you think won. And if you're listening after the fact or watching on YouTube, give us a comment. Let us know what you think. Who got the best deal of the pies here? And you can even let us know on our socials. I think Brian's going to cover those a little bit later. What do you got to wrap this guy up, Brian?
So to wrap this guy up, you can look at that draft. But other than that, extra points. We normally do an extra point, and I'm going to keep this short and sweet this week, right? Change is tough. We've moved to the year of 2021. A lot of people are looking forward to this as a new beginning. And for some people, new beginnings are great, but for some people, new beginnings are scary. So the one thing that I will say is start small. Start on one thing that you can do today to make you feel better moving into your next day, right? Because you can think about the past and you can enjoy the things that are in your past. Like there's a lot of people freaking out right now because we can't call the Brewers Stadium Miller Park anymore. But I can still remember all of my favorite moments there, like the Prince Fielder walk-off home run on May 20th of 2011. That doesn't go away even though a name changes. So even though change is hard for people, just try to take it every day and day by day and do your best.
That's a very good point. I think the thing that the one little bit I'd add to that is you don't have to change. Like, I mean, if things are good, right?
Yep.
I think part of the problem is that a lot of people look at New Year's as it has to be a new start, and it doesn't have to be. It can be, and I think that the way you approach that can vary from person to person. You'll hear a lot about resolutions. What are your resolutions for the year? I have my own. I don't call them resolutions because I think resolutions, in my mind at least, they're destined to fail. But I have some goals and I have some things that I'm working on, both for the stream, for the podcast area, a lot of stuff, personal goals. But the big one, and the one that I do want to share, is just looking at things from a different lens and a better lens. We talk a lot on the podcast about bad stuff and stuff that's, you know, it drives me to anger, and it's stuff that, you know, it's people treating other people horribly. It's bad news. It's all these things that can have a negative vibe. And the more that you live in that world, the more that stuff seeps in. And so that's part of what my goals are for this year, is to see things from a more positive lens and to really seek out the positive. I don't remember who made this comparison once. It was in some video that I watched, and it was really talking about your mindset and where you are in the world, and how you, the lens that you look through really flavors what you see. So I know that this doesn't really apply to Brian, but if you've ever purchased a new car or a new to you car, do you notice how all of a sudden you start to see that car everywhere on the road? Like you never saw it before. That car never existed, but now that goddamn thing is everywhere. Everyone and their mother's driving that car. And it's just because you're seeing things differently, right? It's your car. You know what that car looks like. It's kind of a part of you. And now it's something that you are seeing much, much easier throughout the day. And I think it's the same thing with looking at the positive versus looking at the negative of things. If you're living in that negative world and you're focusing on those negative things, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see the negative before you're going to see the positive. So one of the things that I'm really striving for this year is to focus on the positive, to seek out the positive any way that I can, as much as I can. I want to share the positive. A lot of that's going to happen on this podcast, and it's going to happen on this stream. So I hope that you're here for that journey, because I think that all of us could use more positivity in our life, and I want to help facilitate that in any way that I possibly can. And I hope that you do that too. Just challenge yourself maybe once a day to really just look for something positive. You know, as you're scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or whatever the case may be, you can tailor that to what you want to see. And it's very, very easy to get sucked into one group, and maybe all you're seeing is negative stuff. Really force yourself to try to find something positive. Maybe even just search for something. What is good news today? Look for something positive each day and share that with people. Talk about that with people. I think that's super important. So that's my ask of you, or my suggestion to you. That's what I'm going to try doing this year. Just one of the very few, or one of the many things that I want to do this year. So that's what I've got, B.
Sounds great. Well, hopefully, thank y'all for being here. Thank you for listening, and we'll be here hopefully all year for you. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to plug our socials.
Yeah.
So you can find me on Twitter at LandmarkMKE. You can find Christopher over there on Twitter at Skonzi, Skonzii. You can also find him on the Multi stream Monday through Thursday. And you can find us on Twitter as an organization at AQ_PROD. We're also on Facebook at Almost Qualified Productions. So wherever you want to find us, that's where we'll be. But until you find us there, we will bid you adieu. Happy 2021. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.